Hey folks, welcome to another video on Worldographer. I'm Joe Wetzel, the creator of the program. I'm a little under the weather, so you might hear my voice sounds a little bit weird. I've just got a head cold. But we're finished. Myself and Keith Curtis, the artist behind all of these icons, are finished creating our latest Patreon supported set of icons. This is called CombatTech, which of course is an homage to BattleTech. And we're going to show you in this video how to create a map that looks a lot like this one. You've got here a number of different types of tree clusters for your +1 and +2 bonuses for getting cover for light and heavy trees. We've got this road that is something that's a texture that you draw. We've got these hills, and we've got this elevation effect for the hills to give you level 1, which we don't label in this case because I think that's pretty clear, but level 2 to show the difference. I think you can see it, but just in case we add a label for level 2. We've got a number of Aerotech style jets, if you will. We've got some rubble here and some craters. We've got a number of buildings. Here's some high target buildings potentially, and here's some bombed out buildings and some regular buildings. Clearly, of course, you've got to have mechs in here, and I always think that it was a travesty that kaiju to fight with your mechs were not important in BattleTech, so I felt like it was essential to add it. So you got several of those creatures. We've also got a few tanks for vehicles, and then, as I was saying, there's buildings there. Here's more tree types, more mechs. Here's a fortress structure for like a wall, and these towers and gatehouses, if you will. So you get all of that in this set of tiles. You get this nice coastline feature there, which is kind of the most tedious part of the whole thing, but we'll get to that. So that's what's in the set. To get these into the tool, you want to have the pro version of Worldographer. It's probably better to work with our 2025 version, which was in beta testing most of last year and released towards the end of 2025. We've been putting out new features in monthly releases since then. Also supported by our Patreon, where backers on Patreon can vote for what new thing we're going to be adding to the tool each month. Anyway, to get these icons into the tool, you would unzip if you purchase the icons, which are just PNGs. So you can use them in any image editor. If you just want to use these in Photoshop or GIMP or something like that, they're just images. And if you want to set up the grid and if you work well with that, then great. The nice thing, they are right now configured and set up to work with Worldographer, and this video is going to show you how to do all that. But probably, because I'm such a BattleTech fan myself, there'll probably be a generator that will do a lot of this work for you. So if you just add in the icon set and then hit a couple of buttons, you're going to get something to start with, and then you can probably take 5 minutes to tweak it from there, and you're good to go. I can't wait to get to that, but right now this month was all about creating the icons. So if you unzip the icons to a folder on your computer, and we recommend doing something like your documents folder and create a Worldographer folder in there, or perhaps you've got like a Dropbox or something like that where you can change where you set it using one of these options. Yeah, to change your configuration folder, if you want to move it somewhere else, you can do that. Just don't put it in your applications. There's an applications Worldographer folder gets generated when you install Worldographer, but that folder can get erased and replaced if you upgrade Worldographer, so don't put anything there. Anyway, if you go to add configuration folders, then in my case, I have them all sorted by date, by the year that they were released. So if I go into 2026 here, this should be sorted. That's a low priority issue for us to address. And then you can pick CombatTech, and then once you did that, all these icons will be added in. There's no reason why we can't just do it again. Okay, and you can see that there's 21 terrain, 158 features, and 8 textures. Now, the textures match up with these terrain, which are duplicated also for the features. So there's some overlap there, but it's fair to say that there's 120 or 130 different icons in the set, and some are variants, but there's definitely at least 100 custom, totally different things in the set. All right. So now that they're in the tool, we can go to File, and we're going to create a new, in this case, we'll do a new city, town, village map because this best fits the scale. It kind of doesn't matter for this. And we're going to just say we want it to be 20 hexes wide and 24 high, because that's going to give us something similar to, I don't know for a fact if it's exactly what the old BattleTech maps were, but it's something along those lines. And then we're going to make it blank, so it's not going to generate buildings for a city and stuff like that, because we don't want that for this. But we are going to say that we're going to pick background terrain, and just by default, we'll just pick that one. But we're going to replace most of it anyway. Generate the map, and we get this. Now, you can see, because it's pulling that same sample base icon, you can see the pattern repeating. It's easy for us to fix that or get rid of it. Let me just, I'm going to make this a little bit wider so that we can see the whole set there. What I can do is I can just do paint bucket. I can filter for CombatTech terrain, and I'm going to pick this grass ground texture here. And if I just hit the paint bucket, oh, I'm sorry, I wanted to change one other thing. Let's Control Z that. Let's add on similar. And what this is going to do is make it so that it's going to give us more variety, so we don't have that same pattern. It's randomly picking grass ground A, B, C, any of those. It's going to just pick randomly one of them so that we don't have as visible of a pattern. All right, so once we've got that base down, now I can say, hey, I do want to have a forested area somewhere. I'm going to put wide area. What this is going to do is it's going to affect a cluster of several hexes at once instead of just doing one by one. And I can just go across and I can add, you know, like a big forest up here. Actually, I'm going to undo that most recent one because I got some plans for this corner up there. And I'm going to do another area down here and kind of just go like that. And because we got similar still on, it's going to be randomly picking A, B, or C. And in fact, I do want that to be a little bit bigger. And then just for variety, I do want another texture involved. So I'm going to do this deserty, less vegetation area over here. And then I'm going to do a city area. And again, I can pick any of these three, and it's going to randomly pick those. And so we've got a city area there because we want to show that, hey, there is a high value target area. There's a reason why the mechs are fighting over here. Now, of course, there could be just land that is strategically important, so they could really fight over anything. And the original battle mats from the mid-'80s sets were just a little lake and some hills around it. So we're going to put that there, and we'll fill those in later. And then finally, we're going to do a little bit of water. And we're going to do this lighter color first. And we're going to turn off the wide area. And I'm going to just kind of go like this. And we're going to widen a section of it out. And maybe we'll just pick a few more, just so that we've got the forest all around that river. And then we'll put some deep water. And so then we got an area showing that, hey, it's over the mech's head over there. So we've got that. All right, so this is actually, I'm going to show you the most tedious part of this whole process next. I'm going to zoom in some a little so that it's a little bit easier to see this. But adding in a shoreline, making that pretty shore, if we go back to here, and if we look at this, adding in these icons can be a little bit tedious, but we're going to take care of it relatively quickly. We're going to go over to Features. We're going to filter by this CombatTech folder. And then we're going to pick Shore. And then we've got all of these available to us. Now, what I can do is I'm going to pick, say, something like this. And I'm going to rotate. So this is going to give us 3 sides of shoreline. I'm going to rotate that by, say, 60 degrees because that'll give me one facing of a hex. And I can stick that there, and I can even stick it there too. And then I can rotate it by 240 and get this one, say, and get that area there, and take care of it that way. Now, for variety's sake, I'm not going to do this one over here. We'll do something else for that. And then I've got this one here, which does 2 sides, and I can do this over here, say. And again, I don't want to do it for each of these things, because it would look too much of a repeating pattern. But if you want to be quick, you could. And then I'll go to 60 degrees and we'll just put it down for a couple of others where it makes sense maybe. And then we'll just do no rotation now. and I can put down these tops. And I can put this top here, and I can put it there, and we can put it there, and maybe there. And then I can put a narrower one for the others where it would apply, just for variety. It's whatever you feel like doing. And then I can fill in, say, this side one here. And it doesn't make sense to do it anywhere else for that particular rotation. We can pick this one, though, and do that one there, and do it there. We'll do this one here instead, there. And so we've got that one. We can do this one here. And then I think that's it for that. We can do these bottoms. Where are the bottoms at? Here we go. There's a bottom. And here's a bottom of a hex. So we'll do those, and we'll do this one that juts out a little bit more for that one, just for variety again. And then I've got this corner sticking like this. We can stick one of those there, one there. We'll do one there, and then we'll do the wide one here. And then I forgot about a top one, so we'll just pick that top one there. And a bottom one. Oop, missed another one there. Okay, so we'll do that one there. And so that gives us our prettier coastline. So not too bad, but you can see how that is kind of a tedious process. Now we're going to do the elevations, just showing the hills. And so I'm going to pick elevation. There's really just one icon because there's not a good way to have a lot of variety to it. And so we're going to pick that. And we just drop this down wherever we want to have a hill. And then we're going to put something else on top of it. But I'm going to put a pretty large area of hills over here. And then we are going to take the ground. So the same textures that were available as terrain tiles are available as these features. And so we can just drop these on top. And this is just ordered within a layer. It's just ordered in the order that you place them by default. Now you can go and play with the z-axis. You can select these and then play with the z-axis of them and move them up and down if you need to. You can remove them and put them back on. You can also go over to layers and create a level 1 layer and a level 2 layer and so forth. But for our purposes, for this shorter demo, if you will, we can do that. Oh, I turned off similar, so maybe I'm going to go back and just fill in a couple of these things again differently, just so that it doesn't have the same pattern throughout. So that's how you do your hill. Now, if we want to double up our hills, and if we want those level 2 hills, then we just put down the elevation again on top of that. And so I pick this and say I want it here. Oop. That's because the similar was on, and it felt like that was similar, even though it probably shouldn't be. And then what we did, Keith and I, as we were going, the most complicated thing about all the art was actually these elevations and getting them to look good if they're stacked on top of each other to show that level 2 is above level 1. And so you do see that how this is a sharper white, and then likewise where you've got these overlapping, it's a sharper black on the bottom side. So I'm going to just make that area level 2, if you will. And then we'll go back to the ground and we'll pick this again. We'll turn similar back on and we can drop these on again. I can see that these are level 2, but if you want to be more sure of it, what we can do is we can set up a custom style of a label. So we can add in a new style and we can say level 2 or levels. So these are labels for our levels, and we can make it black. Oh, and I'm going to make it an Arial narrow, say. And I want it to be, I know from experience that like 22-23% of a hex is about the right size. I do want it to be bold though. Hit apply, close, and now I can pick that style of level, and I can just say level 2, hit new label here, and then I can place level 2 on each of these so that your players, as they're playing this, are able to discern easily. Okay, so that's that. I should point out that the idea here is that you can print this out on pages, and you can say, hey, export it to a PDF, and it's going to prompt you and say, how many tiles per inch do you want it to be? So if you want 1-inch hexes, or if you want 1.25-inch hexes, or whatever scale it is that you think is good, you can do that. And I'll just set this to being one tile per inch, or point whatever per inch. And then 0.8 or whatever the ratio works per inch, and it will span it out across multiple letter size pages. Or you can even say, hey, I want it to be a poster map. I want it to be, if you're European, I want it to be on an A2 sheet of paper or something like that. And it will automatically cut it up into multiple pages of whatever size you are, and then you print them out and paste them together, and you've got a map for your game. All right, so with that out of the way there, I'm going to throw in some more hills in a few more places. So let's go to elevation. But for the sake of our purposes here, got to turn that off. All right. So we've got some hill over here, and it spans outside of that, and then we're going to put the same thing down up here just so we've got some variety. Doubled that up. All right. And then we'll go back to ground, and we'll pick this, and we got, let's do similar for the rest of them. So we're getting our variety. So we've got that in place. And we got a few of these here, and then down here we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and we've got 1, 2, 3. So we got all that done. All right, next thing I want to show you is building a road. So let's go to shapes, and because we're just drawing lines for our roads, and I know that the roads that I was making were 30% of a hex, and I was using this texture that's called road ground, which is here. And I do want them to snap to the centers of a hex. And then we're going to bring it from approximately here down to the middle of our city. All right, not quite where I wanted to go. So we hold down Control and click and drag, and we get that. And then I do want to make this line cap butt, because it's going to make it a little bit easier for the joins. You're not going to have a little bit sticking out. And then we go to a new line. So we're going to deselect that one. And I want it to be centered approximately here. Now I'm going to have to move that to there. I have to move that a little bit too. So we go to here, and this one here should go up to there. And then on the other side over here, we want to show a bridge. So I'm going to go, we're going to go to here, and then we'll go down across the river to here. And that shape needs to be on a different layer, just so that it appears above the feature. So we'll put this here on. Okay, let's go and let's stick that on features. No, we're going to stick it on, we can stick it on vegetation, even though it's not vegetation, it's just a layer. All right, so that shows it up above that. And then what we can do is, if you want your road to be a little bit prettier, we can deselect our existing road and create a new road with a yellow color. This is just going to kind of give us passing lanes, and we stick this down to 2 pixels wide, and we make it a dashed pattern. And then click here for where this point should be, down to the middle of the hex here. What happened? Why? Because I set the fill. I'm sorry. So we should set this to be yellow. There we go. I mean, we could, yeah. So we got that, and then we're going to bring it down to here. We don't want the fill though. Let's turn off the fill. And then we can do a new line. So let's deselect that one. Start a new line here. and then bring it down. This will update in a moment. It just updates every minute or something. So we bring that there, and we can take it to here, and that covers that. It's all coming together rather nicely. So for our city, we can go ahead and go to building, and all of our things are buildings here, and so I can place these, and they're set size to be basically a hex, or some are 2 hexes, some will span 2 hexes. So like this here is a larger thing. I'm going to turn on place freely, I should say, so I can size that where I want it to go. Here's a bombed out one. And then maybe one more that's double. And then otherwise we can throw in whatever we want. So I'm going to turn place freely off, so it locks it into the center, and it is picking other things but randomly. So if I turn that off, we can do that. It's just whatever icons are your preference. Pick something that you think looks pretty, and then we can have, this can be a command base here, if you will. Maybe it's rotated by 60 degrees. Oop, 60 degrees, there we go. So it's facing those. Turn off that rotate now. Have this building here. Have this other building here. So we got some high value targets. One more high value target. Maybe there. Or maybe over here. So yeah, so you get the idea. We can say that our city is located in this area and place these icons as you'd like, whatever is a good fit for you. Okay. And then one thing maybe I won't do in this video because it's going to run long, but for our fortress, if we wanted to have walls, we can pick this. I would place freely so that, and then you're just kind of trying to line these up roughly so that they all, well, let's see here. So I could do this, and I can turn it by 60 degrees. Maybe okay, so I'd need to come way out in order to pull that off. So if we pull that there, and then go back to, or turn it back there to 0, just so that we drop a couple more of these guys down. We got a shorter one here. That goes there. And then for our corners, you don't have to line them up perfectly. You can just go ahead and do this. And for our edges, or for our road, we can have this be kind of a gate, if you will. It's more of a man gate. So if you wanted to make it so it's more for a road, you can override the scale and you can blow it up so that it's kind of more of a checkpoint. So we can say it's 90% of a hex, and you've got this, and we can rotate it by 60 and do one. Oh, my road. So I didn't notice that I was moving so fast on my road. So let me select. This line is bothering me. So I hold down Control and drag that over. Ooh, come on. Hold down Control, click, drag. There we go. Okay. So I'm using just my laptop, so I'm using just the touch display, so it's a little bit frustrating there. So, but these buildings here, I think I want to make sure that they go above. That's a big gotcha. So we can select this building here and put this on, again, vegetation, even though it's not vegetation, it'll be above the road that way. You could create a new layer that says features, top level features or something like that if you wanted to, and put them on that. But for the moment, this will work for us. And then make this, so 300 will work. And so we can have this checkpoint here. And even though this is going to make the video potentially run long, do this at 60 degrees and just smack a few of these down. So we're going to smack 2 down like that, and then we're going to smack a couple others down in the other direction so that we can see how these should go, where they should go exactly. Let me pick a short one. Oop. The problem with rescaling them up is that you end up... Okay, there we go. And let's go with the 60. And then we got this thing here, which we can say is 0. And stick that in there like that. And you get the idea. So I'm not going to bother with the rest of all that, but you can see how that can be another tedious thing, but it's really not too bad. Yeah, so that's our map there. The next thing I want to do is trees. So here we have various tree clusters of different types, whether you're trying to do something more evergreen. Ooh, let me blow these up a little bit. So do you want them more evergreen? You can put individual ones down, or you can put down clusters. Of course, it's going to be easier to do clusters. And I'm going to turn on similar here. And let me turn off place freely. And so I can say that a lot of this is heavy trees, bigger obstructions, giving you +2 cover. Doubled that up. But you've got all this here for heavy trees, and then we can stick in light trees. Oop, that's still heavy. So here we have light, and of course it's going to be randomly picking some of the other cluster patterns instead of the one that I've got randomly. And we just do this for each tree area of the map. On the one hand, it can be tedious too. On the other hand, it's actually, to me, it's kind of therapeutic to just be like, oh, okay. And seeing it all develop, it's really kind of cool. So I like it. So we got that one there, and then likewise down here, because of the river, we have less. Let's do light trees all on this side. Maybe a couple of heavy trees. Let's leave room for a few heavy trees. We'll have this outer edge all be light at the very least. Maybe a couple just for randomness. And then we go back to heavy and fill in these heavy trees. There you go. So you got all that. So we have that, and we have that. So this is how you would make the map. We can, for some additional stuff, we can say, let's pull this back or delete the filter there. We're going to add our mechs and stuff in a moment. That's the funnest part, I think. But this gives you a look of everything that's there. We've got some infantry stuff. We've got a sniper, and we've got a squadron, and then you've got an individual one in case if you wanted to do something special there. There's our kaiju. There's our mecha. We've got some fallen logs for some more cover. For whatever reason, that was all stacked over there. And maybe they were doing some lumber over here. And then we've got some rough terrain. Since we don't have anything going on over here, let's do that. Don't know why. Let's say, in fact, let's go back to that crater. Let's say that there's a couple of craters there. So we got this big crater, but then we should have, it's not doing the variety. Oh, because it's a different name. The name varies too much. So we can have this and this. These two have similar enough names that they vary. But we've got some craters and so maybe there was some big explosion, something weird happened over there. So that's what that's for. We've got some smoke and some fire. So this is the fire. Further down is the smoke. So as you're playing, you would typically add that. I don't think that you would use it from the get-go. There's our kaiju and our mechs. So that's what we're going to do next. And we can have our mechs around during our game. Like if you're just doing your game, maybe I just need to see some more variety here. It's just bothering me when things are kind of empty. So I'm going to stick a little bit of this in here too. And up here. Yeah. So for the sake of making your map, aside from finishing this fortress wall, you would just then go ahead and print that, because typically you're not going to have your mechs built into your map. But if you're playing online and you want to kind of screen share and show where your mechs are, we can add those to the map, and we can say, hey, we've got a 60-degree change here, and you've got one force coming from over here. Say we've got those 3 mechs over there, as well as, just to be complete, maybe they're supported by a couple of aircraft coming that way, and maybe on the other side over here we can throw a couple tanks down, and we can set these to be, say, at the 240. And so we've got a tank coming into town. We got another one here. Oh, it randomly picked a different one, so let me put this one down. And then back to our jets. Let's do a couple of helicopters are coming in support over here. So we got that guy, and we've got this guy. And then scrolling down to our mechs. So let's pick one of these guys and one of these guys. Further kaiju, sure, why not? Just to show them on the map. So coming down from this way, we can have some of these guys, because I think they're fun. So we got those guys coming from there. So you can have as much going on as you want. Yeah. One thing, drop ships. So the set does come with a couple of drop ships. Here's one of them. I think that we got, okay, so yeah, drop ship A, B, C, and it looks like there's a D, but it needs to be renamed and fixed. But here we've got a drop ship, and then here's another drop ship. These are scaled a little bit differently, so you'd probably want to scale these guys up just for file space reasons. We scale them down a little bit more out of scale. So instead of, this would be, say, 3 hexes across, it looks like, you can go ahead and override that default scale and instead make it 600% of a hex. So it would be like this, and you can put it on your map. Say this big wide open area down here actually had the landing of the dropship, and so you can include that in your map if you'd like. Okay, so that is aside from this one wall for our fortress, that is the CombatTech icons in Worldographer and how to create a map from start to finish, all the details. I'm really happy with this set, and don't be surprised if in the next month or two we don't put out an update to Worldographer itself that says, hey, if you've got these icons installed, it will let you generate a map where you just say, hey, I want a map that's got whatever percentage of vegetation and whatever percentage of desert versus whatever hills and so forth, has a road, has a river, etc., and build something for you. And you can just do that 5, 6, or even 100 times and get something close to what you want, and then totally tweak it from there. So I hope this has been useful. These are going to be available to our Patreon backers at the $5 and up level. They get it for free. At the $3 level, you get to support the new feature being added to Worldographer, which this month was all about the labels and this curved label functionality where you can kind of, let me pick something a little bit larger. My curved label. And you can see how it gives you that on a curve, and once you place it on the map, then you can go ahead and select it, and then you can move these points to kind of tweak the curve. So you can have a curve go along a river or whatever shape you want. So that was the new feature that people at the $3 level and $7 level get to vote on that new feature. And then at the $5 level, you get the icons and vote for those icons. And then at the $7 level, you kind of get both the icons and voting for that and the feature and voting for that. So that's how the Patreon's handled. So we're doing these through our Patreon. We also have them available after the fact on drive-through, and we're working on getting some of the icon sets into our own store where you purchase Worldographer. But right at the moment, we've only got a handful of sets there. But drive-through has our full catalog. We've been doing the Patreon for, I believe, 7 years now. So there's 80 something icon sets, from undersea things to these BattleTech things to Utopian Future, Spelljammer, Roman, Underdark, all sorts of icon sets. If you go to our drive-through page, you can do a search there for whatever set you want, and chances are we've done it. And if we haven't done it, we take suggestions from anybody for what new icon set to put in the poll. You don't have to be a backer for that. Just let us know and we'll throw it in the poll. But to actually vote on it, you do need to be a backer of the Patreon at the $5 and up level for the icons. Well, I feel like I'm rambling, but we've covered everything pretty well. One thing that I thought about that I wanted to address or mention is, for your icons, let's select one of these guys here. For these icons, if you want to differentiate who's in charge of each of these different things, you could just put a little decoration on it, but it might be better for us to just say this particular mech is, the faction is Kirita, for example. And you can play with the distance of that, so you can tweak it down. You can change the style, so you can change the font, but you can give it whatever name you can give it. A name, Sharpshooter, if it's got a code name, for example, you can put that on there. And that's a good way to signify which one is which. So I just wanted to add that to the video. Again, thanks a bunch.